I want my kids to look at me like a superhero.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's all.
Now with today's world, the kids are so advanced.
I never.
But
Shut up.
You're gonna do what I called you. Like, now come on and do what I told you to do.
For real. Yeah, I miss him a lot.
I think it's more like an ego thing with parents, you know what I'm saying? They don't want other parents to look at them like, oh, that's how they're being brought up, or that's how it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Parental Vision Podcast. I'm your host, Tiana, and today's segment is sponsored by Faye's Coffee, fueling those late-night parenting moments. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting with Woodbury's very own David Haberfeld. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So please, you're also a self-made entrepreneur, which you told me earlier, but you're also a father. So tell me how one navigates the world of entrepreneurship and being a parent.
Well, they say being an entrepreneur, working for yourself, it's pretty cool. You get to work half days, but you get to pick any 12 hours you want. It's a lot of time. It's a tough balance. With the gift of hindsight, if I was to look back, I would definitely not have worked so hard. I spent a lot of time doing things that were inefficient, ineffective, thinking I was moving in the right direction, but I really wasn't. And that cost some time with your child. I missed 2 birthdays of hers in the last 17 years, and she was little, and I thought she'd forget, and she never has.
Really? How does that make you feel when she brings that up? How often does she bring it up?
She'll bring it up once in a while. Not very often, but once in a while. Enough for me to know that she remembers.
So what about the past would you have changed specifically? Like, would you have called off meetings? Would you have walked away from certain deals, or?
I spent a lot of time grinding, for lack of a better word, and I would definitely have reduced that, but I didn't know any better at the time. If you're doing something that is making you $20 an hour, it's reasonable for you to not do things that are only valued at $10 an hour, but I was still doing them, and I didn't know. I knew how to do them. I can't afford to hire anyone. I thought I couldn't afford to hire anyone. And that lasted a long time, many years.
Wow, okay. So how old were you when you initially had your daughter?
I was 27.
Really? And what was that like? Were you ready? Were you well into your career at that point, or you were just getting started?
Oh, I was very unready. Very unready. Surprise.
Really? And what was your initial reaction?
I was unhappy. My original reaction, me and her mother were not together, and if I'm going to be honest, my first thought was, oh my God, 18 years of child support. That was what I thought. Obviously, my mind has been changed on that quite a bit, and of course, I'm very happy now as a father. But in the beginning, it was a shock, and it wasn't what I was hoping for that day.
Understood. So you're a girl dad.
I am.
Oh my goodness. What is it like being a girl dad? Like, were you nervous? Like, how was that?
Being a girl dad is great until like 12 or 13. And then at 12 or 13, they go insane. And then they say that the girls will come back around like in their 20s or so. And so, of course, my daughter, things could have been much worse. She's a pretty good kid. But I thought she was so sweet, so sweet. I thought for sure that the insanity would miss her, but it didn't. So she went nuts just like all the other girls.
Oh my goodness. And is she more like you, or is she more like her mom?
She's got a mix of both. I'm going to say she's more like me.
In what way?
She's a little bit of the stubbornness, when she really wants something, I can see my drive in her. Yeah. But it's like she doesn't want a whole lot of things, so she doesn't show that drive very often. She's actually very driven right now, the most driven I've ever seen her, because she wants to work for me. And so she's working for me, part-time, and I have mixed feelings about it. Working for me is not like real life. Like, I want her to know what it's like to have to be somewhere at 9 a.m. on time and work till 5 and then go home and have a boss and, be given all these tasks and whatnot. And my office is so flexible and easygoing. I worry that she's not learning any of the discipline that she should she ever need to rejoin the workforce. And everyone should have some experience in the real world. I really wanted her to work in a restaurant.
Really?
I think restaurant work is the best work that a teenager can get. I think that the skills and, it teaches you hard work, customer service. It teaches you how to hustle. It teaches you what hard work looks like. It teaches you how to deal with people, all the communication skills that you don't quite have when you're a teenager. And I think working in a restaurant is some of the best money you can make when you don't have any marketable trained skills. And so I think I really wanted her to work in a restaurant. She tried it a little bit. She didn't love it. And now she doesn't want to go back, although I pressure her every day.
Oh my goodness. So how did that idea even come about with her working for you?
My office manager gave her notice. This isn't that long ago. This is only a few months ago. And she'd been with me for 4.5 years. I miss her a lot. She was great. And my daughter, she said, "That's my job. I want this job." And from that day forward, I actually thought it was a joke in the beginning. I wasn't sure if she was serious. She said, "Dad, I want to work for you. That's my job. Please give me the job." And I said, "Sierra, one day you'd like to inherit a lot of money, right?" And she's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, "Well, we can't lose it all between now and then." And I thought I was being funny. I didn't realize I was like insulting her. She would really wanted the job. So she has shown me that she was serious, and she's probably doing a little better than I expected, honestly. But she doesn't show up and start time, stop time. She just kind of does what she wants. It's not full-time work.
Oh, okay. What does her job actually entail?
So she's dealing with some tenants. I'm a landlord, so there's tenants and rental payments and calling in contractors to service, things like that. I also have Airbnbs, vacation rentals, and so she's been doing a lot with the vacation rentals, interacting with the guests, recording bookings, taking payments, sending contracts, stuff like that. And basically whatever else is in the office. She is very introverted. That's one thing that we're very opposite on. I'm very extroverted. She's very introverted. So if we're in a restaurant and she says, "Dad, I want the chicken," I would say, "Well, you tell the waiter." And she's like, "No, Dad, I don't want to tell the waiter. You tell the waiter." She didn't even want to talk to the waiter. And so this was an opportunity to make her do everything. So even as a teenager, older, 17, she still was very introverted, doesn't really want to talk to people, doesn't want to know anyone. But now I make her call in reservations, order lunch, and she has to do those things. And she's done them all just fine. So at least I was able to force her out of her shell in that small way.
Oh, wow. That's good. I think more parents should do that. I'm going to actually work on that with my daughter. What are some of the morals that you instill in your daughter, that you demonstrated in your own life?
Some of the morals. So she's got to do what she says she's going to do. I don't want her to be the person that just people don't take as seriously, because if you say it and you don't do it, people will notice that. People will recognize that, especially on social media and stuff like that. The people that are close to you. Do what you say you're going to do. I want her to treat everything with a reasonable level of customer service. Even if it's not a customer service scenario, you have to treat everything with a little bit of customer service. If someone is completely wrong and being a jerk in business, you have to measure how you address that, how you return. Do you give back what you're getting, or do you try to de-escalate? In the rare case where escalation is warranted, do you escalate? And those are skills that'll take her years to learn. But I do show her that by example, I believe. Don't steal my alcohol. That's in there. I think she might have broken that rule a few times. She has good morals as far as boys, and I don't know that she learned that from me, but I am glad that she does have that. I don't know. I guess that's what springs to mind as far as morals. I try to teach her to, just be a good person. Don't only think of yourself, and try to do things that make sense. If you're doing a business deal, when she gets to the point where she does her own, everything should be a win-win. You shouldn't have to hurt someone else to succeed. Hopefully she picks that up.
Okay, that's good. So you wouldn't mind her going into the entrepreneurship world like you? You wouldn't mind that at all?
I wouldn't mind that, and I'm not sure if she has it or not yet. She has shown some entrepreneurial spirit, but it's hard for me to tell like how sure of that, if that'll definitely like happen for her.
Okay, you can't quite gauge it yet.
Entrepreneurship is inherent. You're born with it. You're wired that way. You can encourage it, or you can like suppress it. But if you don't have it, you can't like teach it. You can't. It's hard to force it on someone. If someone has no entrepreneurial spirit, and you push them towards running their own business, they're going to fail. They just can't do it. They don't have the drive. It's not the way they're wired. It's a personality type.
Okay. And when did you figure out that you had it?
Oh, I was such a late bloomer with this. So, as a little kid, I would go to Costco and get those. They had big bricks of gum. They had little 25-cent packs at the gas station, you remember? And they would sell them in big bricks. And I still remember that it would cost me 13 cents per pack. And I would run around in middle school and I would sell the packs of gum for 25 cents, the same as the store. And I was making 12 cents per pack. And if I saw that today in anyone else, I'd be like, you are a born entrepreneur, like skip college. And I didn't know that. And my parents were traditional, go to school, get good grades, get a job, get a better job, get a raise, No one told me that working for myself was an option back then. I didn't know. And so I continued on the path of, try to get the best grades I can, which wasn't that good, and, go to college and get a job. And I continued on that path for a long time. I was always meant to be an entrepreneur. I'm wired that way. And it was, I was buying and selling and trading baseball cards and magic cards and comic books as a kid. And it was always there. I do wish that someone had recognized it in me earlier. They would have shortened my journey. But, no one picks that out. Even like your high school guidance counselors, back then anyway, nobody said, hey, you know what? You have entrepreneurial tendencies. Instead, they're like, David, sit down and stop selling gum in the cafeteria.
Yeah, they totally overlooked it. They looked at it as a bad thing.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. So how old were you though? Like, were you late 20s, mid 20s when you finally figured out like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start doing it this way?
So I would describe it as side hustling. I was always side hustling. Okay. And then it was October of 2007. I was in IT. I was a help desk technician, so I'd help fix computers and for Safeco Insurance. And they had several rounds of layoffs, and like the third round, I didn't make it. I was cut, and I lost my job. And I was, I thought I needed that job. I really thought I needed it, and I didn't. And I didn't know that. I was so relieved that I didn't have to go to work the next day because I didn't like the job. I loved the people I worked with, but I didn't like the job. And it was pretty skinny for a while. I was living very, very frugally. But at that time, I had a car dealership. I had bought a car dealership, and I was hustling the best I could on the side and flipping cars. And I was selling stuff on eBay all the time. And just by the skin of my teeth, I made it, and I never went to work again. So I've been gainfully self-unemployed since October of 2007.
That's wonderful. So what are some of the different businesses you dabble in? I know you have real estate. What else do you do?
So I have some odd stuff. My coach in my mastermind, they call me a shiny object chaser. And I wear that like a badge of honor. But so I'm a landlord. I do short-term, mid-term rentals also, like Airbnbs. Most people think of them as. I house travel nurses. I'll flip houses. I'll do construction for other people. I have 50% of a pawn shop in South Carolina. I have a marijuana grow company in Canada. I have a car dealership in Bristol, sales, service, towing. What else? Assisted living. I'm not operational with that yet, but I do have some investments in assisted living. That hasn't paid me back yet, but hopefully one day it will. I recently had the only firehouse subs in all of Connecticut. I recently had that. Went out of business though. They're not all success stories. I had a bar and restaurant in Torrington a bunch of years ago. Yeah, that was pretty terrible. Fun but terrible. But I pretty much will entertain anything. But I've gotten better over the years at saying no to opportunities. People come to me with opportunities nearly every day, if not every day, and most of them are not something for me. You have to say no more than you say yes, and I've been learning that over the last 5, 6, 7 years, I would say yes too often. So bring me something that has value in it, that will show me a return, that doesn't make me have another job, and that has like some level of fun to it. Having fun is actually one of my criteria for any business that I get into. If it's really boring or like doesn't do anything and requires some effort on my part, like I don't really want to do it. It's nice to be in the position where you can be a little picky and choosy with what you do. Sometimes I look at an opportunity and I'm like, would that make a fun Facebook story? I bet it would. Okay, let's do that. And I actually consider that when I'm looking at something.
Are there any deals that you've ever turned down that you regret?
Well, for sure. So for any of the real estate investors listening out there, I'm going to make you real sad right now. Every house and every deal that you passed on for the last 14 years was a winner, and you passed on it. I mean, if I had bought every single house I looked at, who knew the housing market was going to go so crazy and the prices would go so high? So try not to think about that, but now I made you think about it, and it sucks, right? I'm trying to think if I had any misses that I wish I got into. I'm sure there's a couple, but they don't spring to mind. I said yes to pretty much everything I liked. I have some that I wish I did not, and I did say yes. But the other way around, most of them, I guess I wouldn't even know the result of them, so I don't know if they succeeded. Nobody offered me ground floor access to like Uber or Lyft or Airbnb, so I didn't have any of those opportunities.
With all the businesses and all the success that you have, would you consider yourself self-made millionaire?
So I crossed the million threshold in 2014.
Really?
And yes, I would say self-made. I didn't inherit like a ton of money or have any slip and fall lawsuit in Walmart or anything. So yeah, some of it was just buying real estate. Even though I wasn't really good at it in the beginning, I was doing a bad job in the beginning, to be perfectly honest. I started in 2006 at the peak. If you sit on real estate long enough, it eventually, you're paying down principal. And then in this case, I started at the height of the market, maybe just below the height in 2006. And so I rode it all the way down to its lows, and then I rode it all the way back up to today. And so most of the wealth I've made has been riding that wave. It was less about what I was like doing, like more what I just held on to. As long as I was aggressive, and I bought everything I could when I was really aggressive in the early days, and just sitting on it is what made most of the wealth.
Wow. So if one wanted to follow in your footsteps, like what would be like the first 5 steps you would advise someone to take?
So in real estate, like today feels a lot like the peak of the last crash, 2006.
I said that earlier today.
It feels a lot like it. And there's a lot of young guys out there that are too young to have been investing in the last real estate crash. And they're like, real estate is not going to crash. The inventory is too low and the demand is too high. And they're wrong. They're wrong. Those are not the only factors that come into play. It's not like we have so many more humans that like all the houses are full. Like if you Google how many housing units are vacant in America, the answer is 16 million. Depending where you read, the number of housing units it takes to solve our housing shortage is between 2 and 4 million. So we have a solvable problem here, and maybe the government will figure it out, maybe the market will balance out, but it's definitely on an unsustainable path as it is. So if I was going to tell someone how to get into, how to do what I did better than what I did it, cash flowing rentals survives a recession. If you can buy a 3-family and it makes $1,000 a month after everything, you're fine in a recession. Just don't sell at the bottom. That's a lot of what I did for the last recession. But the problem is you can't buy one today and make $1,000 a month. It's very difficult. There's very few of those deals out there. They're selling for top dollar and they offer no cash flow. And the best strategy on the market, in the real estate market today, is to purchase houses subject to. It's called buying a house subject to the existing debt. So there are people out there that need to sell for whatever reason, and they have a very low interest loan, anywhere from 2.5 to 4.5, we'll say, is a great interest rate, which we're probably never going to see again in our lifetime. Those loans, you can purchase a house and leave the loan on it. And this strategy is becoming more and more popular. I've done it about 10 or 12 times, and it works great. Those houses you can buy, usually you don't have to put a lot down in them, and you may not make $1,000 a month, but you are paying off your principal so much faster because you have a low interest rate. If you ride that for like 10 years, that's riding the wave. And 10 years from now, you'll have a ton of equity in it, and you sell it whenever is a good time to sell for you.
Wow, that was a wonderful explanation. Thank you. I hope they were listening out there. Thank you so much.
The real estate investors will get it. A lot of them already know. It's a pretty popular topic these days.
Really? So when you're not being the entrepreneur, David himself, what do you do in your downtime? How do you find time for yourself to navigate throughout all this that you have going on? What do you do in your spare time?
Very social guy. I like to go out with my friends, bars and restaurants, and I have an Airbnb that I really like in New Hartford. I like to spend some time there. I've been traveling more, a little bit of Florida, some business trips maybe that add a couple extra days on the end, that kind of thing. So travel, social endeavors. Like to, one of my favorite things to do. I love hosting dinners at my house.
Really?
So I'll have I'll just pick a day like Friday night, and I have a dining table that is it seats 8, but we've squeezed as many as 14 in there. So what I'll do is I'll invite 20 friends, and 10 show up, 12 show up, and we all have dinner and drinks. And funny thing, I can't cook, so my cousin Dylan does all the cooking, and he's gotten good at it, and he enjoys it, and it's one of my favorite things to do.
That sounds like a good time, honestly.
It is.
I want to know, what is dating like as a single dad? Wait, are you single? I'm sorry.
I am.
Okay, so what was dating like, raising your daughter, full-time, part-time, whichever, and dating? How was it?
So my daughter was with her mother until she was 14, sometime when she was 14. And so it wasn't that bad. I had some long-term relationships, like I had 2 4-year relationships in a row. So from 32 to 40, and it was, they got along with my daughter. It was obviously a important criteria, and honestly, things went pretty well. At 14, my daughter and her mother had a falling out. My daughter is very stubborn. My ex, her mother, has been a great mother, and we're still good friends. And my daughter just won't forgive her mother, and I keep thinking she's going to eventually get past this. And my ex, she's apologized, and she's reached out lots of times, and she's done everything that she could do. And my daughter just doesn't want to have a relationship with her, at least not at this moment. I do think that every girl needs their mother, and I hope that turns around. But so since she's been living with me, dating is a little harder, because it's really hard for me to see someone. If I was going to see someone new, my daughter's in my house. Like, I either introduce them early, or you can't bring them home. Yeah. And so that was it was a little harder there. I was in a relationship recently for about a year that recently came to an end. And I think Sierra, I've dated her a little bit, so my daughter Sierra is not as, I don't think she gets as attached anymore, because she doesn't know if they'll be around forever. I might have let go a couple of good ones that I regret, but so when Sierra gets really close with them, and sometimes, actually, funny thing, my daughter will still go out with a couple of my ex-girlfriends.
Really? And how do you feel about that?
I love it. Yeah, because they're good influences on her.
Okay, yeah.
I'm happy about it. When she's like, "Oh, I'm going out with this one, and we're gonna get her nails done." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome. Go ahead." So I don't mind at all.
If you don't mind me asking, do you want more children?
So I always thought I did, and it was pretty recent that I'm like, I also really enjoy my current lifestyle. And I'm 45 now, and I'm like, I don't know. It might be a little late for me. I know I can date younger, but it might be a little late for me. So I think that ship may have sailed for me.
We'll never say never.
Yeah, I know I could, but if you have a kid tomorrow, when their 21st birthday, I'm like, I'll be 66. How much fun can I be at the bar?
You seem pretty fun to me, so I don't know. Maybe by then you'll still be just as fun. But I want to know, if you don't have more kids, how do you feel about grandkids? I ask everyone this question.
I am definitely one of those dads who will be like, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant. Where's my grandkids? You know, like I'll just pick the day and I'll be like, I want grandkids. And so obviously I do want to have some grandkids to spoil one day. My daughter's 17, so not quite yet. Got some time, but yeah, I'm looking.
You said the whole remark about don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex. Is that one of the challenges you face as a girl dad, being afraid of your daughter being involved in that way?
It was like one of my worst fears, like forever. And like at some point, I don't even know when it happened. I don't ask any questions. But I know that it happened. And it's like, I don't know, you just wake up the next day and you're like, all right, well, that's the reality of the situation. I mean, what do you do? So I don't love it. It's one of those things where I just don't want to know.
Yeah. Just be safe.
Yeah. I don't let her boyfriend like stay in her room if he stays over, they're on the couch.
Oh, he comes over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I make him stay on the couch if they're, if he's over.
Do you like him?
Yeah. Her current guy or her boyfriend is, he's respectful to me. I think he's afraid of me. I like that. Yeah. She could do worse.
What other challenges besides that do you fear being a girl dad, a dad of a teenage young lady?
I mean, she's gotten, she's made it to 17, almost 18, but I was always afraid, like the worst fear I had was like drugs or, her being kidnapped or trafficked or something like that. Like the worst fear is that like you watch too much TV and you can't help but think about it. And also as a landlord in C-class neighborhoods, like, I've had to deal with a lot of drugs in my career. And, you never know, like some kid can just be like, hey, try this. And, in a moment of weakness or, pills prescribed by a doctor or, it can happen to anyone. And it's one of the biggest fears. People never 100% come back. Recovery is possible, of course, but they never 100% come back. So she's doing all right. I caught her vaping and I'm like, so I take her vape and she's like, Dad, oh, come on. I'm like, give it to me. And so I take it and I've taken like 3 of them now and I hope it gets expensive. I don't even know what those things cost, but I'm like, if that's the worst I have to deal with, I'm doing all right.
How do you feel about settling down though? Like if you find the woman that you're looking for, and what value would she have to bring to the table as a step parent? Like what would you be looking for in that aspect?
So I am, I should settle down sooner or later. I'm not getting any younger, right?
You look young.
So, thank you. I try to wear 45 well, but, I want someone who is friendly and nice and gets along with, everyone in my circle and my family. And I don't have like any crazy like requirements. I don't need them to have any level of education or any level of, money or anything. I just want someone who is like chill and, happy to go along for the ride and have a good time and enjoy being social and, obviously get along with my daughter.
Yes, that's key.
So I don't have any, I don't have like a crazy list.
So you'll find someone. There's someone out there for you. I know it. Oh, but this was a beautiful conversation. I really enjoyed talking to you. I learned a lot. I really did. And I think you're a phenomenal person and you're a phenomenal father as well. And before we wrap, I do want to ask you 5 things you think makes a great father.
Things that make a great father.
In your opinion.
My opinion. Show up, the soccer practices and the cross country meets and the school play and stuff. You gotta show up. I know this is like a harder one for, some people it's case by case basis, but you gotta get along with the mother. If you're still married, great. But if you're not, one thing that I always did, and my ex always did also, for my ex's birthday, I buy a present and you put just your daughter's name on it and you give her a present for her birthday and for Christmas. And she did the same for me, so that your child can give you the gift, can give them the gift. And I think that's important to get along with your ex Even if you don't get along, hide it just for the sake of the child. You don't have to love them, but you have to get along. Recognizing their their personality types and ambition. And this is something I didn't learn until recently, within recent years. Like, if your child is meant to be an entrepreneur, if your child is not learning in school like traditional kids learn, like some parents are so disappointed when their kids come back with C's, but it might just be that they don't learn in school like is taught traditionally. It doesn't mean your child is a bad child or your child is not intelligent. You just learn a different way. So as a parent, if you can recognize what kind of path your child is supposed to head towards, I think that can make you a much better parent because you won't be fighting them every day. Let me share really quick. So my daughter graduated high school this year, and the best part about having a child that graduates high school, you think it's that you're going to be proud, or you think that they're going to college, or they're going to do something. It's not. The best thing is not fighting with them in the morning to get up. That is the best part of having a high school graduate. I think that a parent, if I was going to go with number 4, I think you got to teach kids about diet and exercise in ways that are not. I don't know if they're really how much they're taught in schools these days. My daughter was such a good eater as a little kid, and somewhere along the way, she's like Taco Bell, Wendy's, and ramen noodles, and I'm like, Sierra, why are you eating that food? Let's get something else, And I've tried to encourage her to work out. I got her a personal trainer, which she stuck with for a while. She's not doing it anymore, but just teaching a child how to work out and the basics of health and diet. So it's crazy because these kids are so invincible. They can eat anything. They never gain a pound. But one day in life they'll be like, oh, I have to watch what I eat. This sucks.
Yeah, because it sneaks up on you.
And let's see, to be a good parent, a 5th one. You have to let them make some mistakes. You can't spoil them. If you say yes to everything, if you give your kid everything they ask for, it makes for a weak child, for lack of a better word. Struggle creates strong children. Children that, within reason, go without. They don't get every new toy. They don't get to everything paid for on their way. They have to work for things, earn things. If you don't let your child struggle some, I think that you are doing them a disservice. And that would be my 5th one.
Well, I agree with all 5, so thank you for that. I appreciate you coming down here to sit with me. Again, I enjoyed this segment very much. And I think you're a good person. I think you're a great human being, and I think your daughter will be very proud of you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Once again, everyone, this is Parental Vision Podcast. I'm your host, Tiana. This segment is sponsored by FaZe Coffee. Until next time.